OGs of Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer. Yes, I said it right.
Hmm.
Of course, there was hesitation. If you are joining us today, we are talking about website health and SEO because Greg does websites, not SEO. Well, he does some SEO, and I don't really do websites. I do SEO. So I'm Pip, Seymour Digital Media, and this is
Greg with Original 72 Creative.
and our powers combined, we discuss digital marketing. If you are joining us on another channel like YouTube or in a Facebook business page, we have this Facebook group where we are live and interactive if you want to join us there. Now, Greg,
Yes.
we were talking this week about how you log into your website and there's like WordPress and they give you like a health score and that stresses some clients out. And then we were talking about kind of some of the things they're telling you to do. And I was confused. I was like, why is my health score related to the inactive themes? And so, can you talk about the health score and what we're seeing when we log into our website?
Yeah. So basically, and some people might not even have seen it because it is sort of down within the tools menu, sub menu kind of thing. But when you first log into your website, there's the main dashboard. And if you look at the main dashboard, which I never do because I find the dashboard pretty useless myself, but there is a card on the dashboard and it says site health. And there's like, it says things like should be improved or like you have things that need to be taken care of, kind of a thing. And if you click it, it will take you to that self site health section where it'll give you critical issues, recommendations, things like that. And I find most people that use WordPress are not like me or maybe yourself who sort of know WordPress and know what we're looking at. They're just the users or the owners of the site who we've built it for and see these messages and get all freaked out like, oh my god, I have critical issues on my site. What are they? And then they contact you like, what's going on? So there is this section called site health, and does give you these things, but most of the time, as I had mentioned pre show, it flags things like there are plugins that are installed but not activated. There are other themes that are installed but not active. And while there could be potential issues with the plugins, um, that they're really not critical issues, which is where I find it scares people, right? And they can't go away. So I typically don't have plugins installed and not activated. I like to keep that clean. But sometimes there might be a case where you want to use a plugin at certain points, but for speed sake, you deactivate it when you're not using it. But you don't want to delete it and reinstall it the next time you want to do it, so you just leave it there. I don't find that super, bad to
Well,
have.
it it doesn't affect you, right? Like in that if it wants an update because it's not active, the files aren't you don't open or close the file. The files aren't going to affect your site, right?
That's right. That's right.
And so it's fun because I have Christmas. I know you love my plugin Christmasify. They also do
Mhm.
Halloween, and you get little things moving across the screen.
Yeah.
I know how much you hate those, but so I have that turned off because why am I going to turn that on all year? But I don't like the red. When it shows me red, I have to update right my sites. But I always wondered about updating the plugins and if they weren't activated. So I don't need to update them if they're not activated.
Well, you should still update them, and they won't cause any issue on your site. But definitely, if you do have a plugin that isn't active on your site, you'll still want to update that
Okay.
just for security's sake. Um,
Well, and that's the
because
thing about.
updating a plugin on your site that's not active will not do anything to your site. It'll just update whatever software is on the server for that inactive plugin.
Right. And so if I have plugins that I don't update, that is an issue because it can cause some problems with security, right?
Yeah, because most of the time there's a couple of reasons why things get updated. It is because there is some type of a security hole in it or a vulnerability in it, or there's new features. So, I mean, take advantage of the new features and update, or update if just in case it's a patch to something that could have a vulnerability on your site.
So, okay. And so what about the themes? Like I have, 3 or 4 themes sitting there on my site that I don't use. Should I delete those?
I would. Um, and I would only leave one theme in there as a backup. And typically, I suggest it be one of the default or the latest default WordPress theme. And the reason for that is because there may, in the future, when you update your theme that you're using, it may cause a problem on your site. And one of the ways to figure out if it's a plugin or WordPress or your theme that's causing an issue is to revert back um, to the default theme to see if the issue is still there, which would
Oh.
indicate that if it's gone, then it's an issue with your theme that you need to figure out. Um, Also, sometimes if you don't have a backup theme and something does go wrong, then your site would completely be gone. Whereas if you update WordPress and something happened, at least that default theme would be able to kick in. If there's no other theme, then nothing would happen.
Mm. Okay, so I don't need to pay attention to those things except keep it default, update my plugins, and the site health we're seeing on WordPress. Now, that's one place we see site health, right? There's a whole bunch of other places you can look at site health.
Yeah, and also I just touched on really the theme warnings and the plugin warnings, but there are a bunch of other things that could be up there. One of the common ones that I see clients coming asking me about is upgrading your PHP.
I get that.
If the server is running an older version of PHP, oftentimes it'll say you should update to the latest, which is good. So there is a handful of things that are in there that
Now,
are either
let me
recommendations or actual issues, and you should bring them up to people.
let's go
Uh,
back to the PHP because I
yeah,
think that can take a significant amount of time to update, and it's something a developer needs to generally do. If
it
I'm
doesn't it
if
doesn't take much time to update, but it could cause you some major headaches.
okay,
There,
so I
there is a possibility because so PHP is a programming language which is most of the WordPress and plugins. It's all based on PHP. So running the latest version of PHP or an old version of PHP, there are things that get depreciated or added in to that module that run on the server that allow you to code what your site is doing and function. So if you were to get a new feature within WordPress that is dependent on something that is in a newer version of PHP, and you're on the older version, but you upgrade your site, then those things will not work. And you
mm,
need to, and could cause you like a critical error and just have a 500 error, server
mhm.
error, and show a white screen, that type of a thing. So a PHP error could completely take down your entire site.
Sounds great. So that's a panic phone call. Um,
Pretty much. Yep.
Now, we know that the new version of WordPress is coming out, 6 point something,
Six
I
point
think.
one. It's actually
And
out.
and is that going to have a updated PHP?
I don't. Well, everything for 6.1, I believe, is there's no indication that this new version you need to actually upgrade PHP to a certain level. There is always a minimum set of what PHP version you need to run WordPress. So as long as you're running that minimum version, it will still work. There would be a point possibly in the future where WordPress will say, okay, everybody needs to be on at least this version of PHP for anything moving forward.
Hmm.
But they would tell you before you do an update that there's a dependency on X level of PHP for that version to run properly.
Hmm. Huh. Okay, so that's because that's an issue I've seen where I look at Phelan and I'm like, there's a problem. So, because that's not where I'm strong, right? Developers are strong there. They look at code stuff, and if it's red, they don't, have a meltdown and stop reading. But if you learn to keep reading, you usually find out problems and solutions. Now, are there other things that this health of WordPress tells us?
I mean, there's a ton of things. It's impossible to go through them all, but people can look at their site health and have a look. There's things for performance. There's things for security. There's
Mm,
critical items, but those
right.
were the major. I think those are the major ones that people sort of get freaked out on. Is maybe the PHP, and then I don't like because it's not really a thing to freak out over. Is like the warnings of you have plugins installed and not activated. Okay,
Mm,
they're not activated. There's no problem there.
right. I have the
And themes,
same.
same
Oh,
thing.
go on. Sorry. What?
And the theme's the same thing. You have a theme that's not activated. Oh my god.
Yeah, oh my God. It's true. I have the same problem in Google Ads with Google Ads added the button of an optimization score, which literally they have proven that everything that is recommended in there
Hmm.
um, is for Google, not for the client. And but I do go in and update it so that I don't get those panicked calls saying, "Oh my God, my optimization score went down," because I'm just like, yeah, don't worry. Um, but that being said, there are other places like I. So have you ever gone to Pingdom? .com and done a test. I like them. And then there's GT Metrics and Light. Google Search Console gives you an ability to do health tests on your
Yeah.
site, which are related to speed and how close buttons are and all the things and the stuff that gets people pretty overwhelmed pretty quick because it's pretty technical. I mean, I can fix image sizes, which is usually one of the main problems. But there's
Hmm.
other things, and I know that you've been frustrated with the health scores because the actual number doesn't necessarily reflect, what is going on. And we've had clients get you do stuff and it changes and it doesn't change in the right direction and they're, more upset.
Yeah, I mean, I've had situations where I was, looking at a site and trying to get a better page score, optimize their site, and stuff like that. And you could initially look, and the page score could be, let's say, 75, just for the hell of it. And then you start working on some of the items and fixing these things that they say are wrong. And as you do that, the page score could go up, but it also could go down. I've noticed because it seems to show you a certain amount of items, and then as you fix those, you'll do another test, and it'll just give you more items
Yeah.
to to look at, right? So it's not like I have never had the situation where I've done one of these tests and it's given you everything that's wrong with the site.
And
So
then
I
you,
don't know how these things work exactly, but this is why I get frustrated with people when they're like, "Oh my god, we need to up the page score." We're like,
yeah,
"Who cares about the page score? Let's just look, let's just test it and see what the things that are wrong, the suggestions on how we can improve the site's performance, and make those improvements, right? Because after you've made all of those improvements, you could still have a bad or a not great page score.
right. And the only thing that really, really matters, I mean, okay, lots of things matter, and you'll learn this stuff over time. Like they do the first paint and all this stuff, and they're using acronyms that are a little bit like, oh God, what is that? No, my God, I don't understand this language. And um, I think the main thing you just want to pay attention to is your site speed. Like if it's under 3 seconds, I think 3 seconds is what you want before people just give up, right? And I think that's the most important aspect, right? You want things to work on your site. If they don't work, it's bad user experience and therefore bad SEO, right?
Mhm.
But I are you going to hyper focus on all these things? Did you know that you could have poor site speed? You can get a plugin. You can probably fix that lickety split, right? Like I mean, we sped up somebody's site like dramatically from, I forget what the plugin is. I'll have to add it. But so technical stuff to fix, like 404 pages. Those are bad user experiences. Those are the things to look at and pay attention to over all this other stuff, right? Um, yeah, image sizes are a quick win, you know.
Yeah, image sizes, because images are like everybody
Huge.
uses images on their site, right? If you can optimize your images as best possible, it will be a big win to your overall speed of
Yeah.
loading the site. It's a huge factor for that, because the weight of what is being loaded is going to be most critical to how quickly your site loads. And this is a good example of how you could have a good a fast loading site or a slow loading site, but have a good or bad page speed score. Because if you optimize all your images and your site loads quick, you might still have a bad page score because there's so many other things that are wrong with your site,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it loads fast because everything's optimized to be as small as it can. But there could be like a ton of other issues that are not as critical to the load speed, but still have negative impacts on your SEO.
Yeah, because it's all about user experience in the end, right? Like, who likes landing on a 404 page? Who likes a slow site? Or when they
I
click
don't
a
know.
button?
There's some pretty creative 404 pages
There
out there.
is. There are some great 404 pages that make you smile. We have a list actually of ones we've collected that are so good. I think
Oh yeah.
the Ninjas, they're British in Britain. They have a wicked 404 page. Like, because if you optimize your 404 page, I mean, it's brilliant, right? You can make somebody laugh, and yeah, it's the best place I think to look for issues is Google Search Console. It's free. It's from Google. They tell you when you have 404 pages because you do something stupid on your site. Not like I've done that. A bunch of 404 pages right now. Um, but so if I was looking to make some easy wins, there's plugins. WordFence, I think, is the one we used for speeding up the site, but there's lazy loading too. Can you talk about that? Because
Yeah,
that's
lazy
good.
loading is basically the loading of images that are below the fold um, once you've scrolled to them. So if you have a really long page and there's images all the way down the page, the images that are below what you can see don't get loaded automatically. they only get loaded as you start to scroll down. So that's something that's native in WordPress now, but also a lot of plugins, optimization plugins, there are flags to be able to turn that on and off as well. I would say for search engine optimization purposes with your website, there's a couple of really critical things I think would be the biggest impact to your SEO. Would be make sure there's no broken links on your site,
Hmm.
no broken images. Make sure you don't have an excessive amount of redirects or 301s. That seems to be something that the search engines don't like being redirected a ton. So if you could minimize
Well, and
redirects, is really good.
that speaks volumes to when you do certain SEO things, because it would be much smarter then to do SEO things like keyword research, picking a specific keyword string for a page or two, because then you'll have it in your URL, right? As you're creating the site, and then you won't be doing the redirect. And yeah, so I think, it's always best to do SEO when the developer's creating the site and having a team effort, right? Which is hard to do for some reason.
Hmm.
SEO seems to be an afterthought. People often build their websites thinking that I'll just build a website, I'll build a business, and they'll just come. Um, you know,
Yeah, it's never an afterthought for me. Um, I mean, while I don't actively just do SEO specifically for companies, like people don't clients don't typically come to me to be like, oh, great, okay, I need to SEO my site now. I typically leave that to the professionals. Like, if a site hasn't already been built like that and you need help to do that, then you go to a company and they specialize in SEO and helping you with keywords and stuff like that. But every site that I build, because I know most of the basics of SEO, probably more, but I hate saying I know everything. Is I build the site and I'm building knowing that these are the things that need how they need to be done for SEO purposes.
hmm
So I'm just automatically building things in that way.
yeah, which is helpful, to be honest,
Yeah.
um, because then it sets people up for more success later, right? Now, going back to plugins, plugins can weigh a site down, right? So you don't want more than what, 10 plugins maybe?
That's a sort of a misconception that the
Tell
more
me
plugins
more.
you have, yeah, I don't know if I think we did a topic way back in the day on whether or not the number of plugins that you're using
Matters.
cause your site to be slower. And so what happens is additional plugins are just additional code and additional functionality. The additional code and functionality should not excessively weigh your site down anymore. So you could have 5 plugins or you could have 20 plugins and the site would not be impacted. What would impact your speed is if one or two of those plugins were shitty plugins, not coded very well, that are causing problems and slowness on your site. So no, there's not really a number of plugins that you should stick to or stick under. You should really make sure the health of your plugins, the reputability of them, who's made them, how they're made, what they do, is really the focus of what you should look at, and
Yeah.
make sure that you don't choose one that weighs
Isn't
your site
yeah.
down.
Isn't it funny, because you can, when you go to load up a plugin, it does tell you compatibility with your theme, and when it was most recently updated. And if they have like, a billion, uploads, or downloads, then I mean it's pretty reputable. Yeah.
You definitely go with the masses on this. Definitely check the last time it was updated. Absolutely look at how many people use it, and it's those are good indications of that the plugin is active. They're still continuing to make updates to it as WordPress changes. There could be times when a plugin stops working because of something that is updated in WordPress. So you want to make sure you choose a plugin that is still actively being worked on and a lot of people use. If you choose something that isn't hasn't been downloaded a lot and hasn't been updated in like over 6 months, or even or a year at least, the chances of that plugin becoming a problem in the future are a lot higher because people someone's there's not a lot of people using it, and the whoever built it, who knows if they're even around or still in the WordPress community. So when WordPress gets updated, if something happens, then you just lose that functionality or it causes your site to die.
Mm.
And there's no real, there's no one behind that to be like, oh, this is a problem with my plugin that I put out there. I better fix it for everybody.
Yeah, or find the plugin if you have to replace one, right? The other thing
Yeah.
is, this kind of leads us into and back to themes because themes can slow down a site.
Hmm.
Because they're like plugins, right? It's a lot of code and functionality. And so, do you have any opinions on the better themes to, use or builders to use?
Um, so I have always, ever since page builders even first came out, have been very negative on installing and using page builders. I've known they were heavy. I know there are a lot of code base, like there's a lot of code behind them. People just get so jazzed about, oh my god, this is what I can do, and I can do that, and then you're like, okay,
And
that's
that's a
fine.
drag and drop, right? So you're talking like Divi or Elementor.
Yeah, those, and so I would highly recommend everybody who is selecting a new theme, don't choose a theme that that needs Elementor or Beaver Builder or Divi
Or the
or any
Muffin
of these.
Builder. I love the names. I love the names. Muffin Builder, Beaver Builder. Like, come on.
Never heard of Muffin Builder.
Muffin Builder. I know it's so funny.
Huh. Maybe I just thought it was a joke and never. I don't
Right?
know.
Well, the Beaver Builder is kind of funny too.
But most there are a lot of themes out these days that work really well with block plugins.
Mm,
So they basically they're basically highly customizable themes where you can change fonts, colors, headers and footer layouts, and things like that. And then the page content is typically just done with the native Gutenberg block builder. And then you can extend the block builder functionality by using a plugin that give you access to additional blocks. And by doing it that way, you're just using native WordPress and a plugin that gives you extra block functionality. A lot of block plugins sort of pair with themes.
okay.
So if you're using, say, Astra theme, Astra, I think, has their block builder, which is called Spectra.
Okay.
Something
Yeah, yeah,
like that.
yeah. I think I've heard of Spectra.
Cadence theme uses cadence blocks. That's my go-to, and there's a handful of other.
And you used
Um,
to use something before. You used to use Genesis, right?
I built all of my themes using Genesis for, I don't know, like probably 8 years at least.
What made you
Um,
switch?
the functionality and the customization of cadence, to me, gave me a lot more option to build sites quicker for people.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We like the cadence theme. We've had you build a couple sites and it's been, they're fast. So here's the thing though. People get like, if I want to build my own website, and I definitely want to use WordPress as a business
Mhm.
owner, but I don't know how to make the right choice about picking a theme, and different people recommend different things. Can you recommend what to do in that case? Like, do I go to what theme forest and just buy a theme I like, or should I talk to a developer, or like go to WordPress maybe?
I guess it really depends um, on what your level of interest in doing it yourself or having someone help you would be.
Mm-hmm.
Theme forest and getting a theme there that's like already done and you just install it and then start adding your content is great for complete do-it-yourselfers. Um, you can also use these highly customizable themes like Cadence and Astra and Generate Press and there's others, to do the exact same thing, but there is a lot more customization that you need to figure out. It's not like here's a theme and this is the look. It's like here's a theme and now make it look how you've wanted to make it,
Mm,
how you want to make it look. And you need to know how to go through all of these settings to customize and make that look happen.
a lot of
But you
settings.
can if you really want to spend the time to do it. But instead, you can get that theme also and have someone like me or another WordPress person go through and basically set it up how you want your site to look. And in that sense, you also would have to have a loose idea of what you want the site to look like so that you can go through that process and put that look together.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the people who don't want to have anything to do with the build and have a large budget and just want to do a complete custom design and custom build of a site where they're not doing anything. They're just using a developer to build what they need for their site.
I think, you go through different stages unless you want to get into development, which is, as a business owner with no money, you're building your own. And then once you get enough money, you end up start talking to professionals that know where all the buttons and levers are. It just makes things easier. That's what I've learned. That's what I've learned. We are out of time. That was really good. Next week, we are talking about Looker Studio, which used to be called Data Studio, which is one of our measurement tools. Phelan and I will be on, and that should be a really fun one. But if you're joining us, say hi. If you're catching the replay, say hi, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.